Thank you for tuning in to episode 1 of the Buyer's Blues podcast. Brought to you by The Economist, because somebody actually understands the Consumer Price Index and can explain it to you. The Economist. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Buyer's Blues podcast. This is the show where we tell you how to take the con out of being a consumer. Coming to you from our sunny studios in Seattle, Washington, this is Buyer's Blues.
My dad is a doctor, and he's going to help you to make smart choices with their money.
Thank you, Nolan, for that kind introduction. This is Buyer's Blues. This show is about making smart choices with your money. It's about avoiding getting conned. It's about not falling into the trap of making impulsive consumer decisions when it comes to your money. We want you to keep it. That's why it's called Buyer's Blues. We want you to avoid having the Buyer's Blues. Now, how do you get the Buyer's Blues? A lot of people ask, like, when was the last time you had the Buyer's Blues, Dr. Blood? And I'll say, well, today. Earlier today, I was at a gas station and I paid $3 for a bottled water. That gave me the blues. I was thirsty. I was out and about and I had forgotten to bring anything to drink. And so there I was at a gas station paying $3 for one single bottle of water when I could go to Costco and buy 40 bottles of water for $4. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Buyer's Blues. That's what I'm talking about. Smart choices with your money. That's what this show is about. It's about avoiding tricks and traps and bamboozling that goes on with marketers. It's about watching out for savings. It's about applying supply and demand economics to your purchasing decisions as you go through life. Just the other day, my son Nolan brought to me the absolute fury of a need to buy a fidget spinner. I said to my son, how much is a fidget spinner? He said, Dad, you can pick one up for the low price of $10 at the local convenience store. Having no idea what a fidget spinner did, or why you would want one, it sounded like a lot of money, but I thought, well, okay, he wants one, his friends have it, let's go take a look. Nolan, why don't you tell me why you need...
Because they're really cool because when you spin it, it makes a really cool sound, and a fidget widget only has 2 sides, but not 3.
But not 3. That's what was explained to me. A fidget widget has 2 sides, but not 3. They make a really cool sound when you spin them. He mentioned that his friends all had them. Blah, 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 blah. So now we needed to pay $10 for this thing. Well, I go home and I look online. That's what I do these days, and most people do that. They look online. Okay, how much is this thing on one of your local or not so local online outlets? And it turns out it's cheaper. But then if you go even deeper and go into Google and you find that you can buy one for $1.83 versus $10 retail at the convenience store, that's a roughly 450% markup. Oh, you're saying, hey, Dr. Blood, it's only $10, right? I mean, my kid buys Legos for $29. $10 isn't $10 like it was when I was a kid. But who would go into a store knowing that they were marking things up from bulk at 450%? The answer? You would. And I did. You see, I went to 7-Eleven and bought this item for $10. And then I came home and researched the cost online and the bulk cost. I don't know about you, but it doesn't feel good to pay a 450% markup of anything, whether it be from $1.83 to $10, or, buying a car for too much, where they have a huge markup on a trade-in that now becomes a cost way higher than you would pay if you were going to buy it. It doesn't feel good to get bamboozled. It doesn't feel good to get cheated. It doesn't feel good to pay too much. By the time you find out, it's usually about the time you get that sinking feeling in your stomach, knowing that your hard-earned money went out the window to something that wasn't worth the price you paid. That is the Buyer's Blues. This episode of The Buyer's Blues is brought to you by The Economist magazine. It's a publication from Britain, so you know they must be smart. The Economist. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Buyer's Blues, where we aim to help you make smart decisions with your hard-earned money and take the con out of consumer. I want to talk a little bit today about cell phone data plans. A lot of folks have gone to the unlimited data plan, whether it be Verizon or T-Mobile, AT&T, doesn't really matter the carrier. They all offer unlimited data now. And people jumping on board thinking, well, I must need unlimited data. I've had overages in the past. If you're like me, you've probably received a text message that said, hey, by the way, you're about to go over your data. Would you like to have another gigabyte for $10? You get the text message. It sounds like an emergency. Then you say, well, yes, I don't want to have a data overage. I know what that costs. So for $10 more, sign me up for another gigabyte. You do that a few months and you realize, okay, I'm using a lot of data. I should probably go with an unlimited data plan. But here's the problem. I'm a child of the 90s. I was around when cell phones came out. I had one of the, not the first cell phones, but I was in on the early phases of the cell phone. And being a child of the 90s and growing up in that era, I vividly remember having people call me on my cell phone if I happened to be home at the time, telling them urgently to hang up and call me back on my home phone because I wanted to save my minutes. You see, I had a concept for what a minute was, and I could tell that if the conversation was over a couple minutes long, it was going to be 15, 20-minute, 10-minute conversation. I needed to hang up on the cell phone and have them call me back on the landline. You see, the thing is, the landline was free, whereas minutes cost me money. So I knew what I was spending, and for every minute that went by, I was running out of minutes on my plan. That was very tangible to me. That was something I could touch, I could feel. I knew how long a minute was. I knew that, okay, if I didn't get off the phone with this person and on to the landline, I was going to be over on my bill at the end of the month, so let's get off this phone. Hey, dude, call me back on the landline. I need to get off my cell phone. The interesting thing is most people who also had a cell phone and knew the problems associated with going over your minutes would happily oblige your request because they knew what it was like to go over your minutes and get charged for overages related to being on the phone too much. It was a pretty big problem when we first had cell phones. Well, today it's all about data, or data, as I call it. As you start to go over your data, it's a lot less tangible as compared to minutes or texts. How did you use it? I don't know. You're over your data. You need more data. You get the text message. Oh, you're out of data. You need another gig. Will you pay $10? Well, yes, I guess I need another one. It's a lot less tangible for the consumer, and the problem that it creates is that you start to sign up for things like unlimited data plans. And data turns into data. A lot of people sign up for that just to avoid the overage, but then they don't realize they're paying so much more than they really need for their cell phone. The cell phone has become one of the top utility bills for most consumers. In my family of 2 cell phone owners, we're up at around $150 to $170 a month, depending on what happens, for 2 people. That's data. That is too expensive. And, you hear unlimited and you go, well, I can't make a mistake if I have unlimited. So I'll sign up. And as a consumer, you're paying most likely more than you need to for your cell phone data plan because you want to avoid the overage. There's this visceral reaction in your brain and in your body when you realize that you're being charged for something you use too much of. And so that will trigger the area of the brain that makes you want to buy more than you need just to avoid the overage. Well, you do that month after month after month after month, and eventually you have a $200 cell phone bill for 2 people. That's ridiculous. I get it. I get it. You use your cell phone every day. Hey, it's a cost of doing business. I do my email on my phone. I download songs. I have all my nutrition tracking on there. I track my steps. I would look at Facebook. There's automatic videos. I need all this content to come across my phone. Well, okay. So you need to pay $170 a month. But somehow or another, the telecom industry got us used to this number because of smartphones. You see, back when I was a child of the 90s, my cell phone bill wasn't $100 for one person. It was in the $29, $39 a month. And yeah, I had to buy my phone. It might have been $100 for a phone back then. Maybe $50 if I got away with one of the cheap ones. I remember having a Motorola Razr, and those of you out there that remember that phone, that was an advanced phone. That was fancy. It had Snake on it. That was a game that you could play with the keypad, and it was thin. It fit in your pocket. That was a great phone. It did everything I needed at the time. Now, of course, it wouldn't get by today with all the apps that are out there for tracking your movements and letting you know where you parked your car and where the closest Starbucks is to your location. All that stuff is absolutely necessary now. The question I'd ask you is, if you're having money struggles, if you're not making ends meet, if your budget seems a little bit fat, how much are you paying for your cell phone bill? And in that cell phone bill, how much are you paying for your data? Is your data costing you $170 a month for a cell phone? Because if it is, you need to look at your usage and see, is this really what I need to be paying for what I use this thing for? Are you actually going up that high with your data usage? And if you are, what can be done? You can ride the Wi-Fi network at your work, if possible, if you have it there. Try not to download movies while you're on the bus on the way to work or in your car, downloading audiobooks. There's things you can do to actually keep this bill from needing to be so high that it's a big portion of your income and your outgo every month. And $170, $200 a month for something that wasn't necessary just inside of 10 to 15 years ago will definitely give you the buyer's blues, I can tell you that. Yeah, it's one of those things that I just get a little frustrated about because it's become accepted that third graders, I met a third grader the other day, had the new iPhone. Parents gave it to him, said he needed to be reachable at all times. Takes the phone to school with him. In the classroom they take it away, but it's in his backpack. It's what are we doing? I mean, as a society, where our third graders need to have the iPhone 7. What is this kid going to be doing on the iPhone 7 that would justify the cost? And just because you can pay it, you may be at an income level as a family where the cost of a new iPhone retail, if you were to buy, this is $1,000 phone, data plan to add a kid, another $70, $80. Maybe that's just a drop in the bucket for you, and you're very wealthy and well off, and that's great. But your third grader doesn't need to have the new iPhone. I'm sorry, it's not necessary. And he doesn't need unlimited data to be able to stream his location to Facebook Live and tweet and Twitter and Snapchat to all his buddies at third grade. He just doesn't need it, folks. And you don't need it as an adult to have an unlimited data plan unless you're somebody who is ultra connected and it's part of your job. And if that's the case, your company should be paying for it anyway. This is ridiculous what they've done. They've convinced us that we need to pay this money for unlimited plans because you do not want to have an overage. That's the worst thing in the world. Well, I can tell you, you're probably overpaying. This is Buyer's Blues.